identify areas, and we're going to be obviously statistic driven, number driven on where these are occurring. Follow that up with some investigative components that we're not going to get into full detail today, but that are going to go from that CompStat model to identify a variety of groups and individuals. They're not all juveniles, majority are juveniles, but in partnership with the prosecutors, with the courts, with juvenile system, we're certainly moving forward on several cases. We already have on many, so there have been some prosecutions. Word to the general public is please protect your vehicle. If you can block it in with another vehicle, if you can have a club put on it, you can just go to Home Depot, have a length of chain, tie it on with a strong lock from your brake to your steering wheel, anything to deter them. But on the investigative side, I can assure you that the City of Cleveland Division of Police is certainly moving forward with our investigative units in districts, in the Bureau of Special Investigations and Bureau of Special Services, focused on reducing this, identifying these individuals, and bringing them to justice.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. And as the Deputy Chief mentioned, this is a prime example of our administration's focus on smart, precision policing when we want to make sure we're using intelligence to fight violent crime all across our city. And with the work we want to do this year after the approval of our budget, with having 5 crime analysts in all of our 5 police districts, will go a long way to ensure we continue to execute this smart, precision policing way to cut down on violent crime in the city of Cleveland. Now I want to hand it off to Councilman Chris Harsh, who's been a leading voice on this issue on City Council. Councilman.
Morning. First, I do want to thank the mayor for taking such decisive and quick action on this issue. When I introduced this resolution about a week ago, it was kind of came out of left field, but this past Monday, my colleagues unanimously endorsed this resolution as well. So it's great to see the city acting together, arm in arm, for the people of this city so quickly. And what bothers me most about this whole problem is that I started to hear about this last fall in Old Brooklyn. We've been particularly heavily targeted by this problem. But these are not luxury vehicles behind us. These are vehicles that working class people need to go to work. Oftentimes the hourly jobs that don't pay for the day if you go out in the morning and your car's not there. These are vehicles that people need to take their kids to doctor's appointments or sometimes hit the grocery store at 10 o'clock at night. So I'm really glad that the mayor has taken up this call and that we're working on this, and I'm excited that Law Director Griffin has entered this lawsuit. I do want to share one option for people who have been affected by this. I printed this out at 7 o'clock last night, so if you just want to take a picture, maybe you can put it on the scroll or something. This is a law firm that's helping consumers who have had their cars stolen. They're Fegan Scott, they're in Chicago, they're the closest one to us. There's a couple nationally that are working on this issue. So I just picked the one that is geographically closest and put, well, one phone number on a piece of paper is easier to see. So if you want to share that number with people who've had their cars stolen, that would be great. I appreciate it, and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Councilman. And as the Councilman mentioned, this is about industry accountability, not just for car manufacturers that fail to install the proper technology, but also industry accountability for gun manufacturers as well in this country. And so we want to use every tool in our arsenal to make sure we hold industry accountable to protect our residents and to keep our streets safe and secure. And so as we close up, we'll offer up the floor to some questions. Sir.
Mayor, can you talk about the stress and strain it is for the individual car owners, wondering if someone's going to show up in the middle of the night and take their car, and the kind of pressure that puts on people that own these particular brands of cars?
It is just a hard time right now in our city if you own a Kia or a Hyundai. I was talking to the council president yesterday, and his own son had 2 of his Kias stolen. That's unacceptable. And as the councilman mentioned, these aren't luxury cars, Mercedes or BMWs or Audis. These are working class vehicles that many of our residents use to get to work, to go to the hospital, to get good health care, to take their grandparents to the grocery store. And so we as a city must do everything we can to fight for these residents, to get them the resources they deserve, and to show that we want to use the full weight of the law to hold these car manufacturers accountable. Isabel.
Mayor, I also spoke with Council President Griffin yesterday,
Yep.
I think just before your meeting
Yeah.
actually, and he talked about also the dilution of police forces who then have to respond to these thefts, kind of the draining of specialized units and the distraction this causes. Can you paint a picture of perhaps the difference in public safety
Yeah.
that having these cars actually with their rightful owners would have?
Well, in all the data that we've been seeing over the last year and the first few months of this year, in many cases, many of our homicides and issues of other aspects of violent crime are all tied to a stolen Kia or Hyundai. And the fact that we have this phenomenon where 13 or 14-year-old men are going on TikTok, and now creating gangs, whether the Kia boys or et cetera, in order to get clout, is what's leading to these issues of violent crime in our city. And so I want to make sure that the men and women of the Cleveland Division of Police are focused on getting more guns off the street, making sure that we close our homicide rate. But when we see these issues of stolen vehicles, it only exacerbates our ability to focus on those aspects of violent crime. And so we want to make sure that we can do everything we can to hold these car manufacturers accountable. But despite that, as the Deputy Chief mentioned, through our CompStat work and through the work with our specialized units, we're using intelligence to fight this where we can. Channel 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say if my car is stolen, I go to the impound lot to retrieve it. I believe it's anywhere from like $250, $260 to get it out of impound. Is there anything within this litigation to claw back some of the money that owners of these cars are having to pay just to get their car back after it's stolen?
Thank you for your question. The answer to that is yes, at two levels. First, we're asking that the abatement be stopped, but once they come in, we're going to ask for damages as well for the costs of having the vehicle on the impound lot, the cost of storage, the cost of police time. So, as the mayor mentioned, we've had a tremendous increase. In December, we had 475 stolen Kias just coming through here. Our impound lot became the largest Kia dealer in the state of Ohio. That is not something that we can sustain because every single one of those costs residents money. We're going to seek to have compensation for that, and it costs time and attention away from the smart, targeted, precise approach to violent crime.
Can you explain the exact damages that you're seeking on behalf of the city and then on behalf of the individual car?
Sure, it's a pending lawsuit. So let me talk about damages with respect to the city. Damages per se for owners will be carried on a different track. But for us, we're looking for the cost of police time, police overtime, the cost of damages to our city generally, impound fees, and others that we are going to develop through the course of the litigation. We've estimated already that we've spent thousands of police hours simply tracking down these stolen Kias and stolen Hyundais. And that is a real drain on the police resources that we want to use to fight violent crime.
Question for Mark, for the mayor. The automakers are going to say they should not be held responsible for the actions of car thieves who have no, fear about driving around with a broken window and obviously stolen car. It's not their fault. It's the thief's fault. What would be your counter argument to that?
It is their fault because it's a foreseeable misuse. And the doctrine of law says if you know or if you should know that a design defect is going to be misused, then you're responsible. You can't turn your back and say, oh, I didn't know. And particularly with the Kia and Hyundai units, these immobilizer devices are installed in their other high-end vehicles, so the Genesis brand and others have it. But when it comes to working class people, they put profits over people. They went cheap, even though they knew that this was a risk.
And Nick, I would say there is a special duty of care that these car manufacturers have to ensure that their vehicles have the top level industry standard. I don't care if it's a BMW or a Kia or Hyundai. Every vehicle must have that industry standard. And as the law director mentioned, we are only the third or fourth city in the country to file this lawsuit. I've already talked to the U.S. Conference of Mayors to support what we're doing here in Cleveland. We also need to raise national attention on this issue. This is an issue that Congress needs to take up as well to hold these folks accountable.
I have one for
Yep.
the Deputy Chief, please. You talked about the investigative. It seems it's reactionary instead of proactive, like a bait car. Have you thought about doing a bait car with a Kia and then have a GPS tracker, video, audio from inside, so you can follow them and say, okay, they're at this intersection. We have a couple zone cars in that area.
Thank you for the question, sir. I also did mention there's a few strategies we're not going to get into today, but that is certainly one of them. That bait car program has been around for a while, and that's in partnership with our state agencies and some others. So that is one of the prongs of our strategies, and there are others. Certainly on the intelligence side is the most important. We talk about reactive to the initial threat. Proactive is going out there and identifying the areas it's taken in, identifying the individuals, and addressing those individuals before they offend. Because many of these is not just a joyride, as in typical terms. Many of these are tied to homicide, felony assault shootings, indiscriminate discharge of weapons in our city from these vehicles. Some of these individuals actually have a series of these vehicles stacked up. So when they have a job to do, you know what I mean, a job, they will go and grab one of those cars and use it in that shooting. So yes, that is one of our strategies, sir.
So there is no bait car right now?
I don't want to get into that, but that is the bait car is one of our strategies that we are using in concert with a partner agency.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Done the story a couple of times, but the MO is typically the same. They'll drop off a stolen Kia or Hyundai, leave the car running because they can't turn it off. It's been hot wired with a iPhone cord, and they'll go and steal another one. Has there been at any point in any of your careers that you've seen something quite like this?
I certainly haven't. I want to talk to the deputy chiefs, Deputy Chief Patel, Deputy Chief Todd, Sam.
I think the last time we probably saw something like this was with the caravans. I don't know if people remember the old Dodge Caravans and the Dodge Neons, but it wasn't to this extent. But that was probably the last time we had something.
Got time for one more question? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're all set. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
You know, I used to drive a yellow cab, and down there on the lot, they didn't need keys. You just turn the ignition, they just turn it on. Like they've been, and nobody's